Welcome to FailCraft, the podcast where we dive into the messy, real side of success and explore how setbacks become the stepping stones to growth and clarity. Today's guest is Laura Watson, a business coach with over 30 years of experience helping executives master their strategy and mindset. But despite looking successful on paper, Laura hit a wall where her life felt flat, resigned, and stuck until a profound experience with guided psychedelics broke her open. She's here to share how she bridged the gap between traditional business strategy and deep inner work to help leaders find true alignment. So, Laura, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, Laura, let's dive in. You were successful on paper and coaching others, yet there was a moment you described your own life as feeling flat and resigned for years. So, can you take us back to that specific season of feeling stuck? So, what did that quiet desperation look like day to day for you?
Yeah, well, like we said in the introduction, it was kind of an experience of just feeling flat, of kind of going through the motions. I've been coaching small business owners and CEOs for, almost 25 years now. And I love that work, but it just felt like I had sort of reached a plateau in my work with them, and even in my marriage. My husband and I have been together over 30 years, and marriages have their ups and downs, and we have become empty nesters over the past few years, and it just felt like life, business, marriage, we were just kind of going through the motions.
Mm,
Monday to Friday was kind of a day on repeat. I get up, do my sessions, meet with my clients, sort of thing, and then hang out in the evening, do chores on the weekend. My husband sitting on kind of one couch, me sitting on the other couch while we're watching television. And so it just kind of, nothing was wrong per se, but, nothing was very exciting either. And just kind of going through the motions on an everyday basis and kind of wishing for something more, but not knowing what that really looked like or how to create it. And so it kind of we both kind of gotten into a place of resignation around, well, maybe this is just as good as it gets, and just be grateful for what we have and carry on. So that's kind of the space that we were in.
all right, Laura, thanks for sharing that story. So, you mentioned feeling fine out on the outside, but craving more inside. So, how difficult was it to admit to yourself, especially as someone whose career is built on having the answers for others?
Yeah, well, it was challenging because there was an element of feeling a little bit like an imposter, I guess, because I'm working to help business owners be more successful, feel more fulfilled, enjoy their relationships more, and yet I wasn't really feeling that on the inside. So it was kind of, like I said, a bit of imposter syndrome and feeling like I wasn't necessarily walking my talk, and also like wasn't sure what to do different. My husband and I have done years of personal development work. I've got communication training. I've worked on limiting beliefs. So I've done the work. And despite, all the personal development over the years and numerous, conversations with my husband, it's still, we'd kind of reached this impasse where things were okay. They were good, but they weren't feeling great, and just stuck on what to do about that.
All right, Laura. So, psychedelics, they're powerful too, but they can also be intimidating. So, what was the specific limiting belief or blind spots that the experience uncovered for you that traditional coaching hadn't been able to reach?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, the use of the psychedelic medicines has been absolutely transformative for myself personally, for my
Mhm.
husband, for our marriage, and for the other people that I've led through this work already. And what I discovered, I always saw limiting beliefs as sort of the baseline that of our thinking that our limiting beliefs and stories and thought patterns really dictate our perspective and how we think and feel about something. It's our thoughts and feelings that drive our action or inaction. And then it's that action or inaction that drives our results. And one of the things I've discovered in this work is that there's a layer underneath all of that. There's actually a philosopher by the name of Heidegger from Germany who was writing about this way back in the 1920s, about this layer underneath. And he created a fancy term for that layer, which he called our existential assessment of possibility and agency. And that's really just a fancy way of saying it's our thought patterns of what we view is possible for ourselves. And then agency refers to how empowered we feel to move into possibilities. And so, what I've discovered in this work is possibilities that I never would have imagined for myself personally, for my business, for my marriage. And then that sense of empowerment that, yes, this is possible. And I actually feel able to live into this and move into this and actually make it happen. So that's where it's been transformative as far as uncovering those new possibilities that I never would have imagined before, helping me feel empowered to live into them. And then there was other pieces around healing that I needed to do that I didn't know I needed to do. There were pieces I was holding on to from my past that I was unaware of. They were in my subconscious and needed to get resolved in order to open up these new possibilities. So that's where the transformation has happened, is in the healing and in the seeing of new possibilities, and then that sense of empowerment to move into them.
So, you talk about conscious leadership. Does having navigated, that period of flatness make you a better guide for leaders who are currently sleepwalking through their own success?
Yeah, great question. So I like to, many of the leaders that I work with when I first engage with them, they're operating in what a realm of reactive leadership. So they're unconscious to some of their stories and beliefs. They're emotionally reactive to situations and just kind of going through the motions of their day, or just pulling in different tactics and trends that they're hearing about either from friends or colleagues. And their overall their behavior is scattered. And so what I'm now doing is I'm leading those reactive leaders into becoming conscious leaders. A conscious leader is someone who has increased their self-awareness. They've gone deeper than those limiting beliefs that they're aware of and the coping mechanisms that they're using to manage those limiting beliefs. They've gone into that deeper layer that I was describing earlier of our possibility and agency. And they're learning the mechanisms to understand their emotions more effectively and really develop emotional mastery so that they can get out of a place of being reactive and into a place of taking action that is aligned with their authenticity, who they are, their core values, what's most important to them, and the goals and objectives that they have for themselves personally, for their business, and for their personal and business relationships as well. So it really is a process of moving people away from being in states of reactivity into higher states of self-awareness and conscious behavior that's aligned with who they are and what's most important to them.
Okay, great response, dear Laura. For the successful leader listening right now who feels exactly like you did, everything looks good on paper, but they feel empty and resigned inside. So, what's the first step they should take today to start waking up?
Well, waking up is all about developing more self-awareness. So anything that they can do to create that awareness. And that's difficult to do on your own, really, because uh, when we're in our box, if you will, we can't see the box from inside the box. We need to step outside and be able to look at ourselves objectively. And that's difficult to do by yourself. So that's where hiring a coach, maybe even a therapist, someone, or joining a mastermind group, a peer group of some kind, where other people can really see how you're showing up and give you feedback about how you're showing up. There are great assessment tools out there as well called 360 leadership assessments, where leaders can do a self-assessment of their leadership and get feedback from their peers and their direct reports, because how they think they are showing up is often not how they're actually showing up to those around them. So I really invite leaders to get out of their feedback vacuum and seek feedback so that they can develop more self-awareness, whether that's with a coach, whether that's with assessment tools, or, if they're open to it, using the psychedelic tools to really help them do a deep dive on themselves and create that awareness of the things that they cannot see, so that then they can start taking more aligned action.
All right. So, Laura, after 30 years of coaching and your own journey into deep consciousness, so what does being successful truly mean to you now?
Being successful to me is about being fully self-expressive. It's about being connected to who I am and being able to bring all of who I am to my work, to my relationships. One of the things I discovered is that there were lots of places, in my life where I was holding myself back because I thought it wouldn't be okay, or I'd be judged for being more of who I am. I was doing that personally. I was doing that in my marriage. And even, holding back at times with my clients. And perhaps it looked like not being as direct, as I needed to be, or not challenging them the way I needed to be to really support them to getting to the next level of their life and leadership. So being successful to me really looks like being authentic, being who I am, and bringing all that I am to everything in my life, business-wise, personal-wise, in my relationship with my husband, in my relationship with my kids and my peers, and also not also stepping into those new possibilities and not letting fear hold me back.
Okay, yeah, really fantastic response, dear Laura. For our listeners who want to, get your business building toolkit or learn more about your coaching and psychedelics guiding, where is the best place for them to go?
Well, I think the best place to arrive is at my website, which is venturecoaching.ca. Once they arrive on my site, they're going to see a number of free resources. There's a free tab where they can download a number of ebooks that are related to a variety of leadership issues, including feedback and communication, for example. There's an ebook there talking about all kinds of different educational resources in regards to the psychedelics piece. And there are a number of other podcasts that I've been on talking about other leadership issues. So there's lots of free resources that people can take advantage of. And if they'd like to have a one-on-one conversation with me, I'm always happy to do that. And so there's my phone number is there. There's a form they can fill in to reach out to me, and then we can get connected that way.
Right, Laura, this has been a fascinating conversation, and I'm excited to have you on the show today.
Well, thanks very much for having me here. I hope that we've provided some value for your audience and given them a few things to think about.